Good afternoon from cold green Hawaii. You are looking at me, Howard Wiig, with beautiful Manoa in the background. This is one of the benefits of working from home. I would show my cat, but she's kind of shy. Another benefit. And my guest today, very honored. When I used to have a program, I think he appeared 3 times because he has so gosh darn many innovative projects that he comes up with. So Nick is with me kicking off Code Green Phase 2. And I just recently got through just an hour ago with a webinar where a representative from the European Union said that as we recover from the COVID economy, we have to do a massive clean green energy program equaling $1 trillion a year for the next 3 years. And inherent in that will be for storage, building a Tesla-sized gigafactory every month. Now that's rather ambitious. So Nick and I are going to scale down that a little bit to Hawaii's size. And we're going to talk about not just efficiency. And let me define efficiency. It's doing more work with less energy and generally with improved health and improved economy. So Nick, in the back of you, can't quite see it now. Oh yeah, there's that strange looking device back there. Probably that device has the best view in all of Hawaii or maybe all the world. But Nick, why don't you just launch right in and tell us how this device, well, you have a big HVAC system on the Matson Building, I believe, which takes the demand of that HVAC down from, if memory serves, from 30 kW to I think it's 8 kW. So take it away, Nick. Explain this wondrous technology for us.
Okay, Howard, thanks. I presented the SunTrack, gosh, I think it was about 1.5 years on your program, 1.5 years ago. And we had been installing it primarily on homes just like this one. And we've been putting it on 3, 4, 5 ton residential multi-zone splits. And we've seen a 50 to 60% savings on those because they're not generally running 24 hours a day. But a system like this, we've been putting in, like I say, the past 3 years, we've been getting the state and federal tax credit on it. So a $25,000 job on a home like this comes out to around $12,000 to $13,000. What we did with Matson and HCND in Sand Island is we actually put on a 5-ton 2-stage commercial unit from Carrier, a brand new unit, and then a 30-ton 208 3-phase Carrier chiller, brand new Carrier chiller at Matson. And on both those projects, we actually put devices on there that prove that there's a 75% energy savings. So in that Carrier chiller unit, which is rated at running at around 35 to 39 kW, is actually running between 7 and 9. So it gets as low as 7 kW at 2 a.m., which is the coldest part of the night. And then at 2 in the afternoon, it gets as high as 9 kW. We're talking a 2,000 watt deflection between the coldest part of the night and the hottest part of the day, including right now. And this unit is running 24 hours a day. And without further ado, to prove that what I'm saying is true, could we have the first tab? All right, what we're looking at is an E-gauge. And if it's possible to scroll a little bit to the right so we see the graph marks, what this shows is 1 week of operation 24 hours a day. Those valleys that you see represent around 3 or 4 in the morning, and those peaks are, it looks a lot like the duck curve, the solar duck curve or the PV curve, and it's actually exactly mirrors it. what it is in the depth of that valley, that's like 3 or 4 in the morning. And then at the middle of the day are those peaks. And then the next valley is the following night. So look at each peak and valley, peak to valley as a day. So what I'm showing you here is 1 week of easy cycling of this 30-ton carrier chiller between a low of 7,000 watts at night to a high of 9,000 watts during the day, the heat of the day. If you could please go to the next screen. Yeah, this is that same week. This is showing amp deflection, or how many amps are being used. So normally a unit like this would run at around 60 to 62 amps. This unit is running fairly steady between a low of 14 amps and a high of 16 amps. This is unheard of. This unit, which is supposed to be running at around 60 amps, is running consistently between 14 and 16 amps. This is savings on a scale never before seen in air conditioning. Carrier Hawaii originally partnered up with us to let us install units like this one here, which is on a Carrier 5-ton. This is on a Carrier 5-ton, and this new installation on a new Carrier does not void the Carrier warranty. The same with what we did on that 30-ton chiller. So from residential to the largest commercial systems, Carrier has adopted that if SunTrack is installed in their units with a certified installer, it doesn't void their warranty. Normally we have to offer a third-party warranty. So these energy savings is one aspect of it. The other aspect of it is over the past 3 years, we've actually had both residential and commercial customers able to claim the PV and energy solar tax credit, both the federal and the state. And of course, with the commercial installation, they qualify for the higher state, the cutoff for the state tax credit is $500,000 versus $5,000 on a home. It also qualifies for accelerated depreciation, meaning these large installations can have an ROI for the entire project of under 3 years. One of the things—
ROI,
return on investment, right? The entire system pays for itself, so that we're talking the panel and the air conditioning all the equipment that went in to do the job is paid for by the energy savings and the tax credits in under 3 years. And we've had several customers, actually a lot, have gone through this process already. One of the things you were asking me, Howard, was how this is going to impact employment and how this can help Hawaii come out of this COVID-19 disaster. First of all, putting in air conditioning is expensive. If you're able to do air conditioning upgrades or new installations or renovations with SunTrack, that qualifies the entire project, be it commercial or residential, for tax credits. Just like it originally began with solar hot water and the PV industry. We have, this can go on far more homes and businesses than PV went on. So the potential for employment, for companies to start up, for mechanical engineers to be educated, for electricians, for plumbers, for pipe fitters, for HVAC technicians, we're talking thousands, maybe over 10,000 plus jobs, well-paying jobs, both union and non-union, both professional and trade. This is a major potential that Hawaii is well positioned to leverage. And for the high cost of living, the high cost of doing business here, if you can cut your air conditioning costs, both for commercial and residential, by 75%, that's like giving free cash flow to the people of Hawaii for decades.
Mm-hmm. And Nick, we've in our office, I didn't even introduce myself. I'm with the Hawaii State Energy Office. we are really focusing on job creation, and something we're very aware of is that a lot of those young people who used to work in Waikiki are now sitting at home, maybe drawing unemployment, maybe not, in quietly desperate situations. And if you're young, you have the flexibility of changing your profession or changing your job nature. As you're saying that, I'm thinking that if we put the word out to especially young people, hey, do you want to get trained in a lucrative and valuable new skill? And it is very definitely a skill. You'd have to go through a qualification process and then a training process, and then I guess an apprenticeship, and then working directly under a supervisor, and boom, after not a long time, you are a highly skilled, highly paid technician.
That's correct. And what we've done at in my company is we put together a design build team, which is a core that can expand. And what we've focused on is quality. Luckily or fortunately, because of the tax credits and accelerated depreciation, it makes what we do affordable for just about anybody. But the ability to have this core and prove out that what we do is correct and set a quality standard for design and installation and service opens up a whole vista of opportunity for other companies to join in, and they will need to hire personnel. And this is the kind of work that, unlike the PV industry or the solar hot water industry, it's self-sustaining in that air conditioning needs service, it needs maintenance, and the volume of potential work out there is incalculably higher than photovoltaics. Photovoltaics takes a lot of surface area. Look at this roof, right? This single 32 square foot panel is working with a 5-ton Carrier multi-zone air conditioner. You would need around 500 square feet of PV to match the work of this unit.
Mm-hmm. Well, and on that very cheery note, what I want to get into is how that mysterious thing works. And then I want us to talk about the concept of peak demand on a statewide basis and how this can be affected. But in the meantime, we will take a 1-minute break. ThinkTech Hawaii, Howard Wiig, Nick Dizon, back in a flash.
Aloha, I'm Lillian Cumic, host of Lillian's Vegan World, the show where we talk about veganism and the plant-based diet, located in Honolulu, Hawaii. I'm a vegan chef and cooking instructor, and I have lots of information to share with you about how awesome this plant-based diet is. So do tune in every second Thursday from 1 p.m. Aloha.
Good afternoon again. Howard Wiig, ThinkTech Hawaii, with my esteemed colleague and major innovator, Nick Dizon, CEO of Nidon Energy. Nick, when you've been showing us that mysterious looking panel in the back, And that sure doesn't look like an air conditioning system to me. What in the world is that panel? And if it makes heat, why in the world do you need heat to produce cold air? That's totally, totally counterintuitive. What's going on here?
Yeah, the refrigeration cycle and air conditioning, you actually, there's, as you know, we're recycling refrigerant through a space, through a fan coil, which is actually removing the heat from the room. That removed heat that comes out goes to a compressor. And because it's not hot enough to dump all that heat at the condenser on the outside, it actually has to be pumped up. So the compressor pumps it and pressurizes it, making more heat. So when it goes outside on and hits the condenser, it rapidly dumps all that heat into the air. And then that same refrigerant now cycles back, and it's super cold, to then easily absorb the heat from the room. And that cycle goes round and round. What we've done is put this panel between, we cut into the condenser box outside, and we actually intercept the line coming out of the compressor and run it up into this unit. And then the output of this goes back down to the condenser. The solar energy that we're collecting does the job of the compressor of making heat and pressure, so that when that refrigerant reaches the condenser, it's pressurized and heated up, not by the work of the compressor, but by solar energy. This means that the amount of power that the compressor needs is reduced. Essentially, the compressor just becomes a pump, all right, to move the refrigerant flow. The secret to success with this type of system is to slow down the flow of refrigerant and have that refrigerant for the maximum amount of time collecting heat energy in this panel, and the maximum amount of time in the condenser dumping that same heat outside. All right.
And what kind of temperatures are we talking about?
It'll range, but like on a typical split, we're talking around 143 degrees Fahrenheit. So what's coming out of the room may be around 20, 30 degrees lower. And so that's not enough for the condenser to efficiently dump all that heat outside. So that delta, that gap, is made up by the compressor. What we've done is, with this SunTrack panel, we cause that gap to be filled by the SunTrack panel, reducing the compressor to being a pump. And what we want that compressor to do is to pump at a very slow flow rate. If we slow the flow rate of that pump, we maximize the exposure time of the refrigerant in the panel to solar energy. And at the same time, we're maximizing the amount of time that heated refrigerant spends in the condenser, dumping its heat. That amplifies the savings of any air conditioning unit with variable capacity compressor. What we've seen on the Matson unit, so if we could go to that third screen showing 3 days of kW cycling. All right, what you're seeing there is a highly detailed 3 days of function. Let's look at that middle peak. You'll see that there's a sharp downward spike that happens every day at around 5:30 in the morning. So if you see that peak and then you go to the following peak, you'll see another spike. And then you go to the third spike in the next hill, you see 3 valleys and 3 spikes. Those spikes is the carrier unit's logic reacting to the super slow flow rate of the refrigerant. It gets so slow and it uses so little power that the unit actually turns itself on for a moment to collect humidity from the space to keep the refrigerant from getting too sluggish, from slugging up. That's how incredible this carrier unit is, and how smart the algorithms are in it to be able to maximize the use of the SunTrack panel. The other thing about when you look at that 3 day peak and valley is that you notice that when the sun goes down, the SunTrack panel performance continues into the night, because functionally, while during the day it's collecting heat to offset the work of the compressor, at night it turns into extension like a pre-condenser. So it's actually helping dump more heat into the atmosphere at night. So the efficiency of the SunTrack panel continues day and night. So even though there's no solar energy at night, it's now acting as an extension or a pre-condenser. And because the refrigerant is moving so slowly through the system, it has an extended amount of time to dump that heat outside, dropping the amps on that compressor, again, to the lowest possible level, where it's only acting as a pump very slowly.
Yeah. Now you mentioned an amp drop on the Matson unit from 62 amps to about 14 amps.
14 to 16, that's right.
Yeah, yeah. So let's look at the larger picture here. Nick, you mentioned that this technology has the potential for expanding onto hundreds of buildings, large units, and thousands of residences, like this residence we're seeing here. And what you're doing, well, Hawaiian Electric has what's called an evening peak, where around 5 in the afternoon, everybody in normal times is coming home from school, coming home from work, and the kitchen is on, the refrigerator is going back and forth, the oven is on, the kids are in the shower. The demand for electricity goes way up around 5:30 in the afternoon, stays there till around 9 at night. Meanwhile, because we were a tourist economy, all the tourists are coming back from the beach, from their tours, from shopping, and they're getting into their hotel rooms, and everything's going on in thousands and thousands of hotel rooms. And then they go down to the restaurants and bars, and those are going full blast too. And the cumulative result is this great big spike in demand by Hawaiian Electric. And this applies to all the islands, by the way, same pattern. But if we had thousands of units like this, what would happen? Oh, and that's why Hawaiian Electric needs all its power plants, because at night and actually smaller units have to fire up to meet that high peak. What would happen to that evening peak if we had hundreds of large units on buildings, thousands of these units on residences? What would happen to that peak?
Well, Howard, you know, possibly even probably better than me, that the majority of the power draw going into the late afternoon and evening, actually throughout the day, is air conditioning. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people think they're saving electricity by turning on the air conditioning remotely on their way home from work, like at about 4 in the afternoon. But that house and that building's been absorbing solar energy all day. So mm-hmm. that means when you turn on the AC, that AC unit, even if it's variable capacity, has to run at 100% for several hours just to fight off all the solar energy absorption. Well, if people put these panels on, what we tell our customers to do, residential and commercial, is to turn it on at like 7:30 in the morning. If we cut the amps down by 70 to 75%, and it stays that way all day, it'll stay that way into the evening mm-hmm. peak. So maybe 60 to 70% of the evening peak, which is air conditioning, could get eliminated just by SunTrack. SunTrack does not burn any electricity. It doesn't use any fossil fuels. It uses solar energy. It's the cleanest, easiest, most small footprint way to actually chop down island-wide, statewide electrical draw from all the utilities. The other thing it does is by doing this, the demand spikes and charges and harmonics associated with all these air conditioners gets flattened out. When you look at that 30-ton chiller, and we knock down amp variation to 2 amps between 2 a.m. and 2 p.m., how much harmonics are coming out of that system, being reflected to the customer's distribution or back to the grid? The other thing is we've just took demand charges as it relates to air conditioning and flattened it out. The final thing is the goal of the Hawaii Clean Energy Initiative, which is 100% renewable, by putting these units on and knocking down 60 to 70% of a homes or buildings drop, the remaining 30 or 40% can easily be addressed by photovoltaics with or without battery, because we've gotten rid of the primary source of demand spikes, the motor inrush current, and all that. We've flattened it out.
And ironically, you know, Hawaiian Electric has now gotten really, really aggressive about achieving 100% clean energy by 2045. And it's, everybody knows about the downtown Hawaiian Electric power plant, that they were able to close that several years ago. There's a couple other old power plants in the Pearl Harbor area. When are we going to be able to close those down, given this type of technology and many other super, super efficient technologies that are coming down the pike? One power plant by one power plant. And meanwhile, PV comes along, and of course, this technology, and boom, you are rapidly approaching 100% clean electricity. We've got 1 minute, Nick. Any final words of wisdom and optimism?
Yeah, I mean, we've got this working now, and we have real-time data. And we've actually sold several more major projects here and around the world. And I think it's going to become common knowledge throughout Hawaii soon that this is the best way to attack energy efficiency and set up for the renewable energy future.
Thank you so much, Nick Dizon, CEO of Nidon Energy. It's good to start this program on such an optimistic note. Keep the dollars in Hawaii rather than exporting them for oil. Keep us all comfortable and super duper efficient. So good virtually seeing you again, Nick. And
thanks, Howard.
The conversation in maybe 6 months. Howard Wiig, ThinkTech Hawaii, back next time. Thank you very much.